and welcome to episode 109 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me most places on the internet as Stitched in Sweden. Today I'm going to be sharing a regular podcast episode with you. I have a few finished objects, some projects that I'm working on, and then also a couple of plans, mostly for gift project ideas for the holidays coming up. So let's just jump right into it. You can find me on Patreon as Stitched in Sweden, and over on Patreon I have lovely supporters who commit to a certain amount that they support me monthly, and over there I share weekly extra content with them with regard to my making and also just kind of daily life stuff. So if you're interested in that, you can also check out Stitched in Sweden on Patreon. So let's start out with my finished object that I'm wearing. This is a sweater that I finished in October. This is kind of a mashup of a few different patterns and a little bit of self-interpretation. This is primarily a sweater from Sandnes Garn. The texture pattern is from that pattern, but the instructions that I followed to build the sweater, or to construct the sweater, I used the porcelain sweater pattern from Lena Samsa Holm. I've knit the porcelain sweater before and I knit it using this same yarn combination, and I knew I really liked the fit, so I decided to go with that for the sizing and shape of the sweater. And I'm really happy with that choice, also because I don't really enjoy following Sandnes Garn instructions because I find them to be quite minimal and sometimes confusing. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'll just stand up so you can get a full view of it. It has a bit of a dropped shoulder. This is where the shoulder is. I added this line detail here, and I kind of freestyled the placement of the texture a little bit. For example, I didn't want to do this cabled part on the sleeve, so I went right into the, I think it's called double moss stitch. And then when I needed more length to the sleeve later on, I went back to the seed stitch that I did for the upper part here. I think it works well though, because like this almost lines up with this section and this here. So yeah, that was kind of my goal. Really happy with how it turned out. It's very comfortable and I have worn it a bunch already. This sweater turned into a little bit of a saga because I ran out of yarn, which seems to be happening to me a lot more lately than usual. And I don't know if it's because maybe I'm knitting with a little bit more positive ease than I have in the past, because I'm just liking that fit more, or what it is exactly, but my kind of standards that I have in my head for how much yarn I need are not always working out. So I might need to start adjusting my buying habits a little bit. So I used Tin Pergint for the main yarn. This is color 1021 and it's a really light gray color. This is 100% Norwegian wool, 205 meters per 50 grams, and then I paired it with Bernice, and this is a silk mohair and wool blend, and it's a super kid mohair, which is extra soft. Super kid mohair to me is just in a different category than kid mohair, and it's so nice. I find mohair, it's on just regular mohair, to be a little bit scratchy and prickly, so I really enjoy this super kid mohair, which is also what is in the Isayer silk mohair. They use super kid as well. This is the color Orgeat, O-R-G-E-A-T, and I ran out of this yarn. If you remember in the last podcast, I think at that point I was maybe unknitting the collar to knit the sleeve. I lost that game of yarn chicken, and a lovely friend of mine in Stockholm sent me this extra ball because, yeah, she's a great friend. And she knew that I really wanted to finish the sweater, and yeah, it was really nice. So then I was able to finish the sleeves to the appropriate length. They're very much a comfortable length that I prefer. I did a tubular bind off on them, and then I actually went back and knit the collar more and folded it down and tacked it in. Actually, yeah, so how I did the collar part is how I prefer to finish double thickness collars, which is that I picked up all the stitches on the inside, and with my live stitches that I had from finishing the ribbing, I grafted them together with the Kitchener stitch. And I think that makes for the cleanest finish on the inside, and also like the stretchiest finish, so there's no like tension going over your head. And it might be so that I add elastic to this at some future point, but that still will be a different type of tension than the tension that you get if it's bound off or sewn down too tightly. So I really enjoyed this yarn combination. It's the same yarn that I used for my porcelain sweater, as I mentioned, and I would love to use it in the future, but it's a little bit, yeah, tricky for me to get a hold of this yarn. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's not great when I run out and I need to buy an extra ball. I have a little bit of this in my stash for maybe some kind of accessories or some smaller projects, but I haven't really decided what I'm going to use those for yet. That's my main knitting finished project that I finished for myself, but I did finish one other knitted item, which is Linnea's Christmas stocking, and here it is. It says her name on it, and this is a pattern that honestly I think is not very attractive, but my entire family has these stockings. My grandmother on my dad's side made these stockings for her kids and their families, and now I have made them for Thomas, my husband, and for my 3 daughters. So just kind of carrying on that tradition, because it's fun to have these matching stockings, and it's fun also when we're all together with my parents and my sister that they also have these stockings. Funnily enough, my grandmother who knitted them does not have this stocking herself. She has her childhood stocking, which was a sewn stocking rather than knitted. So this Christmas stocking is knit flat primarily, and you knit it using intarsia, which is this technique so that it's this type of colorwork technique where you can knit colorwork in blocks rather than stranded colorwork that you might think of traditionally for like a yoked sweater would be stranded colorwork. And it means that you have a lot of different balls of yarn going on at the same time. So it's definitely a sit down and knit project with no distractions or no children, yeah, in the evening. I did the name using duplicate stitch, so I just knit this whole part white and then went over it with the red later on, and I also did that on the face, but the rest is knitted in intarsia. Yeah, as I said, it's mostly knit flat except for the foot, and then it's seamed up the back using mattress stitch. But the seam looks really nice and it's not a big deal, so it's definitely worth it to do that so that you can do the intarsia flat. I used Cascade 220 yarn for this project, and I used color 8895 and a green color that I'll put up here. I don't have the label of that one. Basically, I tried to match the original stocking of mine as close as possible when I made Thomas's, which is the one that I made first, and then I've bought that yarn again or had leftovers to make the girls' stockings. And I actually have an entire skein left over of the red, so I'm considering making some kind of Christmas accessory with this, potentially like a knitted bow for the door or something like for on a wreath or something like that. Might be what I use this for, but it might not be this year. I have a few sewing finished projects too, but I thought today I'll do all the knitting first and then I'll go into the sewing at the end. So let's talk about my works in progress for knitting. Currently I'm working on a sweater for myself. This is the Paul sweater from Marino Knit. I have it in a beautiful project bag from my same wonderful knitting friend who sent me the extra ball of yarn. And this is going rather slowly just because I've had a lot of other projects that have popped up along the way, for especially for gift knitting as we approach Christmas, but also because Nora, my middle daughter, is born in November, so we just had celebrated her birthday, so I had some things to make for that. And then Eloise's birthday, my oldest daughter, is right before Christmas, so I will also be putting this it's been put on hold a little bit to be doing some other gift projects. But this is the Paul sweater, as I said, from Marino Knit. And right now I am just about ready to bind off the neckband. I have done the setup rows for the tubular sewn bind off, so that's what I'm going to do next. And this sweater is constructed with a saddle shoulder construction. So you knit kind of like these rectangles for the shoulder, and then they're actually like sewn together at the back neck, and then you pick up like along the edge of the rectangle, so you get this nice detail of this flat part along the back, and then you knit down here, and the same with the front shoulder here. You knit down, connect at the front, and then what felt like it took forever anyway on this one so far is the ribbing for the body, which was 15 centimeters or 6 inches of 1x1 rib. So that was a lot. And I did a tubular bind off. I would say one tip that I have when you're doing a tubular bind off using mohair held with another yarn is for the bind off part, I never actually hold the mohair together with the regular yarn because mohair is grabby and tangles easily, and especially when you have a super long bind off like this for the body, it's much easier just to drop the strand of mohair at the beginning of the bind off and go through using only your main yarn. You can't tell the difference. There's no difference in tension, and it's just such a headache saver. So I would definitely recommend that if you find yourself in that situation. I am using Knitting for Olive in the color Camel. I still have 1 or 2 balls left, so hopefully that will be enough for the sleeve. I have this much as well. And then for the mohair, I'm using the Isier Silk mohair, which again, it is the super kid mohair that's extra soft. Even though it says kid mohair on the tag, I know that it's the super kid mohair. 75% and 25% silk. And this is the color number 63. I think these two make a really nice pair together. Of course, with Knitting for Olive, you can get their matching mohair that matches directly or exactly with the merino. This is just the regular merino, but that is regular kid mohair, and for me it is a little bit scratchy, so I prefer this one because it's extra soft. So that's the Paul sweater, and the next step will be binding off the neckband, as I said, but after that I'll be picking up the stitches around the sleeve and picking up this provisional cast on so that I get a smooth transition from the saddle shoulder into the sleeve. And hopefully that will happen soon. This is one of the projects that was on my fall plans list that I shared a few weeks ago, and I'm doing pretty well with that plan, I guess. I've made a lot of the sewn items that I had planned there, and I think that the only remaining knitted project besides the Paul sweater is the jumper cardie from Vert Knit, and I would love to knit that in a Knitting for Olive merino and Issair mohair combination that I have in a creamy white, and I'm planning to put pearl buttons on that. It would be really nice to have that for the holidays because I think it's it would be a nice sweater to have that you could like dress up, but I don't think that that's realistic for this year, so it's probably not gonna happen. That's okay. Another work in progress that I have been spending most of my evening knitting time on is a sweater for Eloise. This is called the Always Forever Unicorn Sweater. This project has a lot of different strands of yarn associated with it because it is also an intarsia sweater. And the original is knit using a blown yarn, I think Drops Air, but I don't enjoy knitting with those kinds of yarns, and most of them have alpaca in them, which I am allergic to. Not only for wearing alpaca, that it's just so incredibly itchy to me, but also actually while knitting it, I just sneeze constantly, so I really can't use alpaca, even though I'm not sensitive to quite scratchy wools. Like, I think some people would consider Norwegian wool to be on the scratchier side. That doesn't bother me, but alpaca feels super soft when I touch it, but it is the itchiest thing ever for me to wear. And I don't enjoy knitting with it because I sneeze. So I'm, long story short, knitting this unicorn sweater for Eloise for her birthday. And the original is knit in a beautiful soft gray color with a white unicorn. Eloise wanted bright pink, so I obliged because why not? Here's the back. You can see I haven't blocked this or steamed it at all, but it has a nice little shoulder construction there, and I will pick up the sleeves and knit them later. There's also a double knit neckband. Obviously the unicorn is the main feature, and the unicorn wraps around the back, so I think it's gonna be really cute. There's some embroidery aspects that are done after the fact, and that will include like a cute little closed eye with eyelashes, and then there will be a mane here that will also wrap around to the back. And for the mane, I'm going to use this pretty rainbow yarn, which was sent to me again by my wonderful knitting friend, who also has a pink unicorn obsessed daughter, I think. So you can see here that I started to do a little bit of embroidery on the horn. I asked Eloise what she wanted to do for the horn. I was originally planning just to knit the whole horn in a goldish yellow color, but she said she wanted a rainbow horn. So I tried to embroider the horn just with some fingering yarn that I had. I starting at the tip with the pink, but I don't like the way that this is turning out, so I'm gonna rip that out and I will go back and duplicate stitch the horn in rainbow when I'm all finished. The yarn that I'm using for the body, the pink yarn, is Drops Daisy, which is a 100% extra fine merino. It's not superwash. I really enjoy it. I knit my crystal sweater with it before, and I've worn that a lot. What was I gonna say? This is color number 22, hot pink. I'm also using color number 1 for the body of the unicorn. And if you look really closely, you might be able to see, maybe not, I don't know. But there's actually some sparkle in the body of the unicorn, which you can definitely see when you are looking at it in person. This is the sparkle yarn that I used. This sparkle yarn is from Self-Made, which used to be Stuff and Steel, and it's advertised as like a tweed effect yarn, and then this one is sparkly, and the color of this one is unicorn. It also comes in gold and silver, and I think there was also maybe a black and a couple of other colors, but this one was the unicorn color, so obviously I had to pick that one. I kind of wish that I had held it double throughout the unicorn body so that it was more pronounced, but I only bought 1 ball of this, and it would have been kind of tricky to hold it double because it's on like a tube, kind of like a toilet paper roll sort of situation. So there's no way I could get to the inside of the other end of this ball. So yeah, I also could have done this technique that I used for my French market bag, which is a way that you get a yarn tripled from one strand, but I didn't think about that until after I had already started, and I think that that just would have been too tricky with the way that I was holding this one together with the white merino. So it got held single, but if I had bought 2 balls, that would have been the other solution. But I'm gonna have so much of this left over, so I wouldn't have wanted to have 2 balls either. Anyway, that is that unicorn sweater, and I think that I'm making good progress to be finished with that for her birthday. The other knitting whip that I have on the go is a Musselburgh hat. It's a pattern from Usolda Teague, and I'm knitting this for Eloise also. I knit Nora one in the fall. Hers was using Knitting for Olive merino in the color Blue Lavender, I think, or Lavender Blue. And this one I'm knitting for Eloise in the same yarn, Knitting for Olive merino, in the color Poppy Rose. And this is quite slow going, but I would like to have this finished soon because her other hat, knitted hat that she has for winter, is too small now. This is a hat that is knit like from end to the other end, and that would be like one long kind of tube, but with closed ends, that then is one side is put inside the other one so that it's double thickness. And it has a nice square top with 4 decreases there, and I just like this pattern a lot, so I'm knitting it again. It takes a while to knit though because it's fingering weight yarn on small needles, and it's a long hat. Let's see, I'm using a size 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter. That is my other knitting work in progress. Thinking about gift knits and gift projects, I don't think that this year, besides the gifts for Eloise, the knitted things that I'm making her, I'm not planning to do a lot of knitting for gifts because it takes a lot of time, and it's just nothing that I feel like this year people are like in my life needing specific knitting things. So the only other exception for that is that I am planning to knit a hat in this yarn, which is from Sandnes Garn. It's Sunday in the color 6062. It's a just kind of standard blue. And I used this yarn actually in color 3554, which is the rust color, to make an Oslo hat for the store that I work at. Recently, a sample. And the Oslo hat just comes out really big for me. I made the women's size and it's really large. So and my gauge matched. So if I were to make that again, if I were to make it for myself or for another adult, I would probably make the junior size. But I'm thinking about a Musselburgh style hat in this yarn for Thomas, my husband. But excitingly, at work, my boss has shown me how to use her knitting machine, which is so cool. So I'm hoping that I might get a chance to test that out and knit a hat for him on the machine. The idea would be that it would be a double thickness hat like the Musselburgh hat, but I wouldn't have to hand knit it. So it would go a lot faster, and then the end part would be seaming it up, and I would probably hand knit the top part so that I could get that nice 4-point decrease on both ends. So we'll see about that. Other than knitting plans, I don't have any knitting plans per se, other than ones that are kind of long-term knitting plans that I have, like the cardi jumper from Birth Knit. I would really like to knit that sweater next for myself, but I would also really like to knit a slipover or vest for myself. I'll just show you the yarn I have for that. I have these two that I'm going to pair together. A Fun Right Round Classic Sock in the color Rust, and this is also a Derirum Natura Bernice mohair. And even though these look quite different from each other on camera, they make a nice combination with a little bit of a marled effect in the swatch that I knit. And I have 4 balls of the mohair and 2 of the sock yarn, so I think it would be a perfect amount for a vest. I just need to decide what pattern. I'm leaning towards a v-neck vest potentially, but I don't know which one yet, so we'll see. Let's go into some sewing projects, starting with finished objects and moving into whips / cutout / planned. If you remember last time, I talked about my clothes that were missing, my winter clothes, and the craziest thing happened, which many of you probably guessed would happen, but they have been found. They were in the garage in a suitcase, which was kind of where we thought that they would be. But they had gotten in with some maternity clothes somehow, and so they were like under some maternity clothes, I think. And so it was just like, oh, that suitcase has maternity clothes in it. It's definitely not in there. And so they got missed. But now I have them back, and I haven't tried them on yet because I've actually pretty much fully replaced most of the long sleeve shirts that I had in my wardrobe. And I'm really enjoying wearing them right now. They're a better size, I think, for me now, and I'm comfortable wearing them, so that's what's most important, right? But I have a few that I will definitely go back to. I did finish sewing several Nico crew tops with Marino Jersey, and here is one of them. This is, yeah, really just such a staple top for me. It's my go-to shirt to wear underneath knitted sweaters. I'll wear this style shirt all winter. What I really like about making the long sleeve Marino Jersey shirts for myself is that even though it has like the warmth and coziness of wool long underwear, it doesn't have the exposed seams that long underwear often have that I find makes it look like long underwear. Like, if you look at a merino long underwear shirt, it often has like the cover stitch look of the seam on the top, on the outer part. It's a very weird small detail, but I think I noticed this kind of thing because I sew, and to me that makes it look like long underwear and not like a shirt that you could wear day to day. So I like being able to make my own because then of course I'm in control of what the seams look like. And yeah, this is one in the color Guava. This is Marino Jersey. It's the ZQ Marino Jersey from the fabric store. And I've also made a the crew neck version in mulberry, lemongrass, guava, and then I made a mock turtleneck, the actual original Nico top, in a ivory jersey merino. I do think that I will make maybe 1 or 2 more because I'm finding that I'm missing having a crew neck one that is a lighter color. So I do have, I think it's called Moonstone, in my jersey stash, which is kind of a, I think of it as like a mushroom white, has like a slight purple tinge to it. So I would like to make one like that because I think that would be nice. This one you don't notice too much, but yeah, I would like to have that under light colored sweaters. So I finished those merino projects. I also made some onesies and some leggings for Linnea. I talked all about those merino projects on my Patreon account, so if you're more interested in that content, you can check it out there. The other sewing project that I finished is a fanny pack for Nora. This is the Rika fanny pack, and it's a pattern, it's a German pattern. This pattern company has patterns in English and in German, but this one was only available in German, which was challenging for me to follow. I think just like I didn't have the energy really to follow it. Like I just found it challenging. But the pattern itself has a lot of images, and in the end it was quite simple to make. And had very good instructions, and the bag construction itself is really well thought out. But for me it was just hard to sew it because it was in German, and like trying to think about which instructions apply to me, because I find a lot of German sewing patterns include a ton of detail, and when you are reading the pattern in German, or I was using a translate app on my phone, it's hard to know like what instructions apply to you, and it's just a lot to go through. Like this bag had 44 pages of instructions, which honestly I don't think was super necessary, but here we go. So this is the Rika bag, and I've used Rifle Paper Company, and I've used a fusible fleece interfacing, and I did just like some quilting lines on the floral part here. I also sewed on a little patch that my sister gave Nora, and the inside is a cotton fabric from Art Gallery Fabrics. Nora decided she wanted the pink zipper, so I let her choose, since oftentimes she doesn't get to choose that kind of thing since she gets a lot of hand-me-downs. I went for a red strap with a purple buckle, which came from Self-Made or Stuff and Steel. And then on the back there's also a zipper. And this zipper is actually one of these continuous zippers that you add the zipper head yourself. This is the first time I've ever used that, and I would definitely use it again. I think I've had that zipper for 2 years or something, and I was kind of intimidated about using it, but was so easy to use, and you get to choose exactly the length that you need. Worked really well. So this is her little fanny pack, and the idea behind this, which was a birthday gift for her in the beginning of November, is that it will be her little spy kit bag. So she also got walkie-talkies for her birthday, and she's gonna get a few other spy kit supplies from my parents for Christmas. So they've been really into this spy detective show, and they like to run around with their flashlights, and yeah, I think this will be a fun little bag for that. So then we can just go kind of into works in progress and plans too. For Eloise, I'm planning to make a similar bag, or the exact same bag, and I have hers cut out here. Everything is all cut out and ready to go, and it's just in this plastic bag that I have as a project bag for sewing. She's gonna have a star patch on hers. I also I put little measuring tapes in, I put a measuring tape in Nora's bag, and then I will also put one in Eloise's, because they're always taking my measuring tape and they really like playing with them, and I thought that's also kind of a little bit of a spy detective thing to have. So her main body of the bag will be this color, or this fabric, which is, this one's actually a canvas, lightweight canvas. I think the Rifle Paper Company canvas is a canvas linen blend, and then this is the fusible fleece that will give it a little bit more body. Hers will also have kind of the natural color canvas top, and she has a little bit more of a bubblegum pink for the lining fabric, and then she'll have a blue strap with a mint blue green color buckle. The other thing that I have cut out for Christmas making for Nora is the making backpack, which is a pattern that was, it's by Noodlehead, but I think it was originally published in the Making magazine, and now it has come out again with a mini size, and I made that mini size for Eloise when she started preschool, and Nora doesn't have a backpack that I've made her, so I thought, perfect, for Christmas this year I will be knitting Eloise the unicorn sweater and making Nora this backpack, and those are going to be like their two kind of main mama made projects. So for Nora, I am doing the mini version of the making backpack, and this is going to be the main panel of the back, and it will also be the main panel for the front, but the front will have a pocket like this. So this will be a little bit shorter because of the seam allowance, but the Alice in Wonderland girl will just be, I mean, it's Alice, right? She'll just be popping out of the pocket a little bit, and then I'm also planning to have this N patch sewn on the pocket. She will have these blue straps for hers, and the lining fabric is going to be this striped pink and white. So that is another kind of like, not big sewing project that will probably take me like 2 evenings to make, but it's all ready to go and sew it up when I get the chance. I'm thinking of a few other sewing projects possibly for gifts. I have a little bit of fabric over here that might be a gift, but I don't really want to talk about it yet. And then the other sewn project that I have cut out is that I'm going to be testing the Neve pullover, Neve sweater from Solala Patterns, and I have cut that out last night. It is just this, I've decided to just go for it in this creamy white fleece, fuzzy fleece back sweatshirting, and I have white cuffing ribbing fabric too. And the idea with this is, if it turns out well and fits me in a way that I like, then I might do a little bit of embroidery on the shoulder neck part. I think that would be pretty. So those are kind of the plans that I have at the moment, and the projects that I've been working on over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this podcast, and I will talk to you again Thanks for watching.